Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today we are immersing ourselves in source material that is, well, it's as shocking as it is meticulously crafted. We're talking about the dense, mythological, and intensely personal world of Bonds of Hercules.
This is truly heavy stuff.
Yeah.
We've got mythology, we've got these dystopian power politics, and then these deeply scarred characters grappling with fate, really.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is. So our job today, I think, is to cut through some of that complexity. We need to rapidly distill the hierarchy, the prophecies, and the core conflict. And that conflict really centers around this volatile, almost terrifying bond shared by the protagonist, Alexis, and her two chthonic husbands.
And as we navigate this this really dense narrative, we have to keep one core concept front of mind. It's something the author uses to define the entire world, actually. It's the Greek concept of agathokakology.
Agathokakology.
Meaning composed of both good and evil. And that duality, it isn't just some philosophical footnote here. It's like the operating system for every character, every political decision.
It dictates pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And to understand the gravitational pull of these relationships, we really have to ground ourselves in the mythological framework the source material keeps invoking. Plato's The Symposium.
Ah, right. That ancient idea of Zeus splitting the original humans, weren't they like spherical, four-limbed, two-faced beings?
Something like that, yeah. And he splits them into two separate parts, condemning them to search for their missing halves forever.
That search for completion?
Exactly. That's the cosmological justification, you could say, for the marriage bonds in this universe. But, and this is the critical, kind of cynical twist the author applies, while the bond fulfills this cosmic mandate, it's specifically designed to make their powers stronger, but more painful. So the reunion of the soul halves, instead of bringing, bliss or completion, it brings agony.
That is where the agathokological element just hits home, doesn't it? The ultimate spiritual connection is inherently agonizing. It suggests that in the Spartan world, pain is basically the necessary catalyst for power.
Seems that way.
Okay, let's solidify the setting a bit more.
Right. So the setting is Sparta, but it's a brutal, highly structured society ruled by 12 houses. And these houses are split between the chthonic, Hades, Persephone, Erebus, and the Olympian faction.
And they're constantly fighting.
Constantly. Engaged in political and, literal battle for dominance, for survival. And this backdrop, these ancient, warring, mythological families, that's what creates such incredibly high stakes for our protagonist, Alexis.
And before we even get to Alexis, we probably should acknowledge the source's explicit warnings. This material is not gentle.
Not at all. The author dedicates it to readers who kind of question, am I okay when reading deeply intense content? And the content warnings themselves, excessive violence, dark language, allusion to sexual violence, they really establish that the moral landscape here is thoroughly shattered.
It's a clear signal, then.
It is. It signals we should probably discard any conventional expectations of, like romance or a straightforward heroic narrative.
Yeah.
We are entering a space where survival requires moral compromise. And the protagonists, including Alexis, they're deeply stained by that compromise.
Okay, let's unpack Alexis, who the sources define as the self-proclaimed introverted, perverted prude, which is quite the descriptor.
Isn't it? Especially for the daughter of the king and queen of the underworld.
Right, Hades and Persephone's miracle child, and her bloodline gives her this extraordinary, almost overwhelming power.
Yeah, the sources describe her power as restless. Like it's always seeking an outlet, always demanding expression. And this power is the reason she has this immediate, massive burden to excel in the gladiator competition, the SGC.
So she's carrying the political and mythological weight of the entire chthonic house right from the start.
Pretty much, on her shoulders.
And that burden is just magnified by her forced connection to two deeply powerful and frankly terrifying men. She's bonded to Charon, the hunter, and Augustus, the eldest heir.
Both defined by their capacity for violence. But the bond, like we said, isn't just power, it's pain.
The intention of the bond is clearly to create a superior fighting force, right? Their combined power must be immense.
Oh, absolutely. But the fact that it makes their connection painful, that just reveals the cost of that strength. It's a really cruel twist of fate, isn't it? The very thing that supposedly makes them whole also makes them suffer.
And maybe the most tragic element of their initial dynamic is Alexis's deep, visceral fear. We keep getting reminded of her history of abuse, specifically that life lesson she learned. When someone moved quickly towards you, you ducked. Always.
Yeah, that's rough.
So how does that past trauma interact with the terrifying reality of these new husbands?
Well, that history means she views their possessive devotion, which, to them might be a form of love. She sees it as an immediate, unavoidable threat. She has spent her life ducking, hiding her vulnerabilities.
Right.
And now she is literally bound, soul-bound, to the two people who probably terrify her the most. This foundation of terror is just crucial because it's the huge obstacle they all have to overcome to achieve that sort of restorative love described later in the prophecy.
It definitely sets the bar extremely high for any kind of redemption or acceptance. Okay, let's move into part 2 then. Let's delve deeper into these two chiffonic heirs, starting with Charon, the hunter.
Charon, okay. He's like an aesthetic of controlled violence, isn't he? The ice blue eyes, the painted black nails, even the dried blood smeared across his mouth. It's all about projecting menace.
And the tattoo.
Yeah, the skeletal tattoo, Furia, stamped right on his throat, and he claims his identity. I'm known as the hunter of my generation. He projects this image of perfection, but the source makes it really clear he is profoundly damaged underneath it all.
And those damages are kept secret, even from his co-husband, Augustus. That says a lot about the culture, right? This Spartan masculine strength ideal.
Totally. It speaks volumes. So what are those hidden vulnerabilities? Well, they're physical and psychological anchors to his past failure. He has a damaged left eye, he's essentially blind in it, and a permanently damaged left ear.
Wow.
And crucially, his right knee is ruined, described as having misshapen joints. These all stem from losing the SGC when he was just 18, a crushing defeat for someone built up as this prodigy.
So he's a hunter who failed his most important hunt.
Exactly. And those hidden physical scars, they really define his insecurity, his drive.
That adds some necessary texture, I think. It helps explain why he's so desperately possessive, perhaps. He feels broken, maybe, and Alexis is the only thing that can potentially mend his standing, his power.
That seems to be a big part of it. Which brings us to his shocking declarations of devotion. Or, well, what passes for devotion initially.
You mean that infamous quote?
Oh, yeah. Pure predatory obsession, sort of masquerading as love. I married you because when I saw you, I immediately wanted to ruin you, body and mind. That is the language of a hunter wanting to conquer and consume.
But hang on, if his bond starts with that desire to absolutely ruin her, how does the author manage to pivot from that statement of, like, predatory control to the later sacrificial act, the ear thing, without completely losing the reader's trust? What bridges that huge gap?
That's a great question. I think the narrative bridges it by showing that Karen's obsession gets rooted in Alexis's power and her defiance, not necessarily her submission. He seems attracted to the challenge she represents and maybe the inevitability of their bond. The source kind of suggests that the only way for him to overcome his own internal brokenness is by sacrificing what's already broken on himself for her restoration. So his love, if you can call it that, becomes a means of self-penance maybe, moving from wanting to ruin her to needing to restore her, possibly to restore himself in the process.
A fascinating, if very extreme, take on devotion. Now let's look at Augustus, the eldest heir, the partner from the House of Ares.
Augustus, yeah, he's the stoic counterpoint to Karen's more aggressive intensity, right? He embodies the heritage of the House of War, which apparently comes with this inherent madness.
And since the marriage bond settled, his power has become visibly volatile.
Visibly, yeah. The sources note that blood now drips from his eyes like tears. Just imagine that. It's this terrifying physical symptom of the bond amplifying the violence and volatility inherent in his bloodline.
That image is chilling. He's literally bleeding, not from an external injury, but from the internal pressure of a soul connection. It just reinforces that the bond is inherently destructive, even for these incredibly powerful chthonic heirs.
It really does. And yet, despite this escalating volatility, the source also notes that Alexis is the new glue that bridged the gap between him and Charon.
So she's the necessary, agonizing third piece that somehow stabilizes their political and emotional unit, even while she destabilizes their physical forms.
Exactly. It's another layer of that agathocological paradox.
So while Alexis is dealing with this intense, newly bonded duo, there's also immediate temptation and political maneuvering coming from another pair, the Crimson duo, Patro and Achilles.
Yes. Patro from the House of Aphrodite and Achilles from the House of Ares, often just called the dragon. Their dynamic is described with this chilling poetry. War, sex, death, lies. It was also disturbingly fitting. They represent a whole other flavor of chthonic obsession, one that's violently loving but also entirely self-contained between the two of them.
Achilles seems like the most visually tragic character in this duo. He's the dragon, possessing this devastating power of Greek fire, but he wears a muzzle. That external restraint is just, wow.
It's more than just a restraint. It feels like a statement of trauma, doesn't it? The muzzle prevents him from unleashing his power, obviously, but the source later reveals he also carries an X of thick white scar tissue across his mouth.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Implying a failed attempt to literally sew his mouth shut and silence him permanently. He's a character defined by suppressed trauma, his true nature, the dragon forced into silence and subservience.
That forced silence makes Patra's attempts to communicate with Alexis to tempt her even more pointed, right? Patra is actively trying to separate Alexis from her husband's. What's his angle here? Is it purely temptation, or is there political necessity?
It seems like a mix, maybe. A blend of loyalty to Achilles primarily and manipulation. Patra repeatedly offers to help her sever the bond. He claims he and Achilles want to make it up to her for some past offenses.
And his argument is?
His argument is basically that Charon and Augustus are strong enough to recover from the severance, and she could be free. But it feels like a clear attempt to use Alexis's understandable fear to peel her away, maybe gain a political advantage, potentially creating a new, dominant chthonic faction with Achilles at its center.
That intense political tension leads directly into the SGC initiation hunt, where the sheer brutality of the Spartan world is just fully exposed.
Oh, the hunt. Yeah, the rules are deliberately sadistic. Alexis and Draxes, another House of Heirs member, they have to run 25 miles, and fighting back is absolutely forbidden.
And if captured?
If captured, the hunters, who are supposed to be Charon and Augustus in this case, are explicitly instructed to kill them. It's an initiation designed purely to confirm the dominance of the powerful over the weaker heirs. Ruthless.
And the violence starts almost immediately, right? Even though Alexis and Drex are barely even trying to escape, they're described as moving like snails.
Exactly. Yet Hermos, who's a Gorgon, just shoots Drex twice in the arm and Alexis in the right calf. Without provocation, really.
So why is that immediate, non-defensive violence so important to the narrative here?
I think it proves that the threat isn't just about getting caught. It's about the innate depravity baked into the system itself. The targets are meant to suffer, regardless of compliance. And this is what triggers that massive visceral reaction from her bonded husbands, who were supposed to be the executioners, not the, horrified observers.
Right. Augustus bellows in rage and horror at seeing her bleeding. And Charon, knowing his previous actions have absolutely terrified Alexis, he attempts this calculated, almost performative moment of decency.
Yeah, he deliberately drops his helmet and weapons, offers his black hunting shirt for a tourniquet. It's a moment of vulnerability, maybe, demonstrating that he recognizes her terror and feels this need to reestablish some sense of safety, even if it's based on, well, a lie or manipulation at that point.
And this moment of crisis forces a kind of confession from Charon, too, doesn't it? Revealing the deep, possessive emotional dependence he already has on her.
Yeah, Alexis challenges him directly. Was it worth hurting me? Just for your powers? And Charon just admits it. I'd been steadily spiraling out of control since Alexis left us.
Wow.
So his devotion, even though it was born from this place of abuse and possessiveness, is now tied to a genuine need for her presence just to stabilize his own volatile emotional state. His spiral is the pain of the severed half seeking completion, maybe even before the bond fully settles and the shared pain begins.
That sets the perfect stage for part 3 then. The SGC itself, her transformation into the Angel of Rome, and the full, terrifying revelation of the pain bond. Let's first look at the arena.
Okay. The gladiator competition. It takes place in the Dolomites Colosseum, which sounds like it's designed purely as a spectacle of controlled, or maybe not so controlled, violence. The audience, the Spartans themselves, they chant, Amor fati, memento mori.
Love your fate, remember death, cheery.
Right. It's this constant, morbid reminder of the culture's embedded fatalism.
And there's that pre-fight ritual, the revelation ceremony. It shows the deep political scars, doesn't it? Leaders exposing their chests to show defeats. Hades and Artemis reveal 0 defeats, maintaining their image of perfect dominance.
But the revelation of Erebus is stunning. His entire pale torso is just covered in raised, overlapping claw marks, like he's been perpetually savaged by hundreds of beasts. It sounds horrific. Yet he also declares 0 defeats.
That distinction feels really key. Erebus, the primordial god of darkness, he's described as a monster, more beast than man, and he carried these physical marks of eternal conflict, yet he remains politically undefeated.
Right. It teaches us that physical trauma in this world is often expected, maybe even celebrated, as long as the will remains unbroken. Political defeat is the only kind that truly counts against you.
And into this crucible steps Alexis. She's wearing that priceless blue diamond necklace Karin gave her. But the source notes her custom-made toga was surprisingly durable when she tried to rip it. Like even her clothes are working against her self-destructive impulses.
Oh yeah, seems that way.
Her defining moment, though, comes in that Rome fight in Chapter 12. She's battling these terrifying Class 7 Titans, the ones with wings, protecting a human city.
Yeah, she's fighting for her life, trying to leap away from an attack, and then she realizes this terrifying tactical error.
Yeah.
She missed a blind spot. There are elderly humans just sitting at concrete chess tables, including the woman named Lucia, completely exposed to the Titan attack.
And here's that crucial moment, right? That agaphocological dynamic in action. She's a Chaconic heir, bred for war, for self-preservation.
But she chooses a selfless act. She prioritizes the vulnerable humans over her own safety, diving in to save them. And the result is catastrophic for her physically. Her spine is shredded, and remember that bullet from Hermos is still lodged in her calf.
So the choice of self-sacrifice, prioritizing the weakest, it's the first definitive action that really contradicts her abusive past and her violent training.
Absolutely. It's a turning point.
And how does that action, that self-sacrifice in the face of annihilation, how does it redefine her public persona?
The reaction is apparently electric. The human public immediately gathers around her, chanting, Angelus Romae, the angel of Rome. They touch her gently. They spit on the bound titans she defeated. This single, profoundly painful act transforms her from being seen as just this feared, maybe spoiled, chthonic princess into a genuine public hero. It creates a kind of political shield around her that even someone like Zeus can't easily penetrate later on.
The angel of Rome.
Okay.
And this connects directly to Charon's shocking act of devotion, his sacrifice. You mentioned Spartan biology allows for the fusion of damaged hard tissue if it's stitched within a few hours.
Yeah, that's the setup. And this is where Charon arguably redeems that initial horrific declaration to ruin her. Remember Alexis's original left ear, damaged in childhood abuse, permanently marred. Charon knows this secret vulnerability.
Okay.
So he performs this act of extreme self-inflicted violence. He slices off his own already injured left ear. The source describes it as a mangled ridge where his ear used to be, and he stitches it onto Alexis's damaged ear.
Oh, what? He cuts off his own ear?
Slices it off and stitches it onto her. It's a literal restoration using his own brokenness to mend hers.
That's incredibly intense.
The intimacy and the sheer brutality of the moment are overwhelming. And as he performs this horrific surgery, he whispers the Latin to her, Per angusta ad augusta carissimus. Through trials to triumph, my dear.
Wow.
It's like this ultimate acknowledgement that their shared path to greatness must be paved with agony. He sacrifices his broken part to mend her broken part.
It's the ultimate statement, maybe, that their love, or whatever it is transactional and rooted in shared trauma, which leads us straight to the full revelation of the pain bond on SGC Day 11.
Right. So Charon is fighting these 3 Class 7 typhons. They're described as serpent beasts whose saliva literally causes his skin to melt and boil. The agony is described as extreme.
Okay.
Simultaneously, Alexis is way up in the stands watching, and she involuntarily slumps, clutching her chest, feeling the exact same scorching pain.
At the same time.
Exactly the same time. And Augustus is right there with her, and he experiences this secondary shockwave of their involuntary connection. He violently vomits from the intensity of the shared agony. It's no longer metaphorical. The bond is now a tangible, involuntary transmission of pain between them.
So Charon asks her, right, if she can feel their pain.
He does, weakly. And Alexis, despite the obvious physical reaction she just had, she lies. She says no.
But why? Why lie at that point? Why protect the men who have previously terrified her, especially now that she's arguably becoming the dominant power figure, the Angel of Rome?
That's the fascinating part. She lies because she fears being coddled. She fears that if they knew they could hurt her simply by suffering themselves, they would hold back. Or worse, they'd try to keep her from the arena, from fighting.
Ah, okay. The SGC is her path to power, her way of defining her own strength.
Exactly. So she views their potential protectiveness as a greater threat to her autonomy than the actual physical pain of the bond. It's this complete acceptance, finally, of the agathocological nature of their connection. And Augustus confirms it later. We're connected by pain. The full measure of the curse, or the gift, depending how you see it, is now realized.
Okay, moving into part 4. Alexis starts using her mind, her strategy, not just her martial prowess, to turn the political tide. This starts with her interrogation in the Colosseum crypt.
Right, she's chained up, but she's definitely not defeated. She uses her emotional support calculator, which is actually a hidden graphing device, to record Zeus during her interrogation. This detail is just brilliant. It shows she's a strategist, a calculator, not just relying on brute force.
And she confronts Zeus directly.
Boldly, accusing him of framing Medusa, who is Charon's sister, importantly, and of planning the Titan attack in Rome specifically to kill Vico, an Olympian heir he saw as a threat.
And Zeus's reaction?
Utterly confident in his position.
Yeah.
Completely dismissive. He basically tells her, grow up. This is Sparta. No one cares about little girls. He's so arrogant that he essentially confesses his conspiracy, never imagining for a second that the chained girl in front of him has the means to record his downfall.
But the interrogation also features Patro again, right? He's coerced into questioning her under the threat of Achilles being incarcerated.
Yes, but Patro's motivation seems to shift here, or at least his actions do. He effectively betrays Zeus to save Alexis's credibility. Patro uses his House of Aphrodite power, which seems to involve truth sensing or emotional reading, and he confirms to everyone present. She's not lying about Medusa's escape route and her role in it. This is a massive political move. Patro chooses to align with Alexis, maybe to protect Achilles, over the established Olympian power structures. It really highlights this growing alliance forming around Alexis.
So, armed with Zeus's recorded confession, Alexis makes her public move at the symposium, and she blandishes the rod of Asclepius.
Yeah, and the visual described is breathtaking.
Yeah.
The rod of Asclepius is the ancient symbol of Spartan healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in Alexis's hands, it's formed from writhing, poisonous blood. It's snake-wrapped and even framed by the wings of her creature, Fluffy Jr. It's the symbol of restoration twisted into an instrument of immediate deadly power.
The symbol of healing? Made from poison, that's potent, and she plays the recording.
Plays the recording, exposing Zeus's corruption and his plan to incite war for his own gain.
And the impact.
Instant chaos.
Yeah.
Fate herself, like the literal primordial force of destiny, stands up and declares, the Federations has been betrayed by Zeus. And the prophecy about Alexis is immediately activated, confirming her ultimate role.
Okay, let's delve deep into that full prophecy then. It confirms her destiny is as a healer and redeemer, not just a fighter, right? The text states, the lost one's healing light shall mend the injured four. Drex, Lucia, Charon, and the Serpent of Lore.
That list is so specific and confirms her dual nature, doesn't it? Lucia is the elderly human she saved in Rome, showing her healing extends beyond just Spartans or Chthonics. Drex is the companion she protected during the hunt. Charon is explicitly named, confirming that the ear sacrifice was somehow part of a divine plan to mend his brokenness.
And the Serpent of Lore.
That's believed to be Nyx, the primordial goddess of night, suggesting her healing light extends even to the oldest, darkest aspects of their mythology. It's huge.
So her destiny isn't just to be powerful, it's to restore the broken parts of her world, from the lowest human to the highest primordial. After this huge public victory, though, she has one piece of personal trauma left. Vengeance against her foster father.
Right. He's been captured and is imprisoned down in the villa's dungeon. And Charon and Augustus bring him to her as this ultimate gift of submission, really. They tell her it is her vengeance to take, and crucially, they will support her decision no matter what. They are fully relinquishing control over this act of justice or vengeance to her.
And the foster father, seeing her, tries to manipulate her one last time, begging her to remember her gentle soul, claiming she was never violent.
He does, but Alexis, now fully realized, she corrects the abusive narrative of her past herself. She confesses, maybe boasts, it was me, I killed her foster mother on that winter's day. She embraces the truth of her inherent capacity for violence and the necessity of her past actions.
And her choice of execution is telling. It's not emotional torture like maybe Charon would choose. It's cold, calculated justice.
Exactly. She uses the rod of Asclepius, that symbol of restorative, poisonous power, to pierce his sternum, instantly killing him. It's an act of clinical final justice. And she declares, I'm not what they made me, I made me. This final act really solidifies her identity as Hercules Alexis Hurt, a figure capable of delivering merciless, focused justice, wielding the power of both life and death.
This political and personal resolution seems to lead directly into that pivotal scene where Alexis finally fully accepts the agonizing bond, the shower encounter on SGC Day 12.
Yeah. Having asserted her political dominance, executed her personal justice, Alexis approaches her husbands in the shower, and she demands to know when their physical relationship will begin. She states, quite bluntly, I'm ready to fuck. She takes absolute control of the dynamic, dictating the terms of their intimacy now.
And Karen's reply shows a complete shift in their dynamic, doesn't it? That initial predatory desire seems replaced by something else, like reverence for her strength.
Completely. He promises,
Yeah.
we won't be making love until you survive your rounds in the arena.
But he offers a taste of what's to come. So they're now prioritizing her survival, her SGC dominance, over their own immediate physical needs or desires.
Seems so. And Augustus grounds this new devotion back in that cosmological framework. We were fashioned by Kronos to be your husbands. We're one soul torn into 3 pieces. Don't be afraid of our love.
And he makes it clear that their obsession isn't based on her vulnerability anymore, but on her displayed capacity for suffering and her subsequent strength.
Yes, they confess they knew their love or their bond was genuine when they watched her self-sacrifice back in Rome. I knew it when I watched you battle a Titan, your face determined, at peace, as you sacrificed yourself. They essentially fell in love with the angel of Rome, the ultimate paradox of her chthonic nature and her capacity for sacrifice. Depravity and devotion all wrapped up.
Okay, as we move into our final synthesis here, let's just trace Alexis's complete transformation again. She starts as this abuse victim, hiding her physical and emotional vulnerabilities, utterly terrified of her husbands.
Right. And she moves through this terrifying abusive relationship dynamic. Importantly, she rejects the chance to sever the bond when Patro offers it. Instead, she chooses to accept the shared agony of the reciprocal connection. She goes from literally trying to break the bond with her own blood to embracing the agathococological reality that, for them, pain is power, pain is connection.
Her final identity is sealed. Hercules, the Angelus Romae, the wielder of that poison-laced healing rod. She becomes this figure of profound, calculated violence and merciful restoration, balancing the good and evil inherent in her heritage.
And this transition forces her husbands to transition as well, doesn't it? They have to shift from being aggressors seeking to ruin her to protectors whose obsession becomes defined by their complete submission to her will, even if that will is to choose the path of agony and self-sacrifice for the greater good or for her own power.
Which brings us right back to that final, unsettling truth embedded in the prophecy. The last line states, "The monstrous one shall mend and restore, for the lost one hears his beastly roar."
This is the ultimate paradox the source material really leaves us grappling with, I think. The lost one, that's clearly Alexis, achieves restoration not by fleeing the danger, not by finding conventional safety, but by fully embracing the beastly roar, the untamed, obsessive, and yes, violent nature of Charon and Augustus. Her acceptance of their monstrosity seems to be the key that unlocks their capacity for protective devotion and that restorative sacrifice, like the ear.
And the material concludes with Alexis's own internal thought, reflecting on her husbands after all this. "I've never felt so safe. They were my husbands, and I wouldn't have it any other way."
Which forces us, the readers, you, the listener, to question the very nature of safety itself in this world. Safety arrives not through conventional civilized order, an order which, by the way, produced the treachery of Zeus, but through the hands of 2 monstrous individuals, whose love is defined by shared pain, extreme devotion, and the capacity for, frankly, unholy depravity. And that maybe is the cost of true security in Sparta. What does it mean for a world when safety only arrives through the hands of those capable of such darkness?
An incredibly intense and, surprisingly philosophical deep dive into the paradoxical world of Bonds of Hercules. Thank you for guiding us through all those layers of pain and prophecy.
Oh, always a pleasure to analyze the threads of a narrative where restoration seems to demand depravity. It's quite something.
Indeed it is. And thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.